When it comes to maximizing your opportunities for meeting potential future partners, what are the 6 different things that I want you to keep in mind? Stick around and let's hit it. What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. Phoenix Singh, and it is a pleasure to be here with you today. What I'd like to do today is to be able to speak with you a bit about my breakdown of 6 things that I want you to really take into consideration when it comes to exploring opportunities for how to be able to meet individuals who may have a strong goodness of fit with your attitudes, values, and beliefs, such that they may be a good fit for you in terms of a long-term partnership. Now, at the end of the day, a lot of people believe in the concept of a soulmate, the idea that the given individual is going to somehow magically appear in your life, and that you're almost cheating by intentionally seeking someone out. Now, I do personally not believe in the concept of a soulmate, but I also don't believe in making the whole focus of your life meeting someone else, right? Henry David Thoreau used to have a quote, don't remember exactly how it went, but basically he talked about happiness as being like a butterfly. It's going to elude you the more that you chase it, but if you busy yourself with other things, then it'll essentially come and just kind of perch gently on your shoulder. It's the same kind of a concept here when it comes to happiness. Now, what are those things that we really need to focus on then, though? If not, romantic relationships. And a lot of people busy themselves with things like their career, their education, and these things, and there is nothing wrong with that. I would argue that the thing that we need to busy ourselves with when we're single is really figuring out what it is that God has intended for us in terms of the mission of our life, and then moving intentionally towards fulfilling that mission. And along that road, we're going to end up meeting people who are walking the same path with us, or look at us walking on that path and say, that person's walking on a path that I want to walk down as well. And if you're a Christian, you would say, oh, hey, he's walking with the same guy that I'm walking with. This seems pretty good. Let's go ahead and we can carry that burden together and help one another as we go on this walk of faith. Okay? Now, in terms of meeting people, it can be a challenge in this day and age when it comes to technology, but technology also has been a huge blessing because it's allowed us to be able to develop a greater opportunity, pardon the pun in the case of this video, but a greater opportunity for developing community, provided those communities then translate into in-person communities such that you can truly get to know people in that more traditional sense in terms of face-to-face socialization. It's critical, right? But what opportunities should you take advantage of, right? Certain things just not for everybody, right? So when it comes to exploring these things, right, maybe you don't want to go to bars, maybe you don't want to do whatever it happens to be, right? There's 6 things I want you to take into consideration, okay? The first one has to do with who, right? So who are you trying to meet? If the who is you want to meet only Christians, you don't want to meet somebody of either any other faith or someone who is strictly spiritual or somebody who is an atheist, that's fine. If you're an atheist who really doesn't care, like I was an atheist for the longest time, if you're an atheist, you just don't care whether or not the other person is religious or not, so long as they respect your beliefs and don't try to proselytize to you, because that was me for the longest time. I still can't stand it when people go and proselytize, regardless of what their faith is, including if they're Christians, going out overly proselytizing. I think it's a huge turnoff to the faith. And I think it really turns people off Christianity specifically, which stinks. Right? There's nothing worse, in my opinion, in terms of the Christian faith, than people getting turned off of Christ solely because of other Christians. Either how they act, like what they do, how they behave, whatever it is, or how they espouse their beliefs. It's really dangerous. We got to do it tactically as Christians. But if you're only interested in if you're only interested in dating people of the same faith, then it's important that you go to places where you're going to meet those people. Obviously, right? So really have a strong sense, really think about who it is, the who element that you would like to date. What are the characteristics? Now, we'll talk about in other videos how it is that certain characteristics are going to significantly reduce the likelihood that you're going to find someone, right, who kind of ticks your categories. For example, if you're only interested in dating a guy who's over 6 foot, well, there's only 14% of all men in the United States are 6 foot and above, right? You have to imagine that because they likely are in higher demand than men who are shorter, that probably the preponderance of them who are, around the same age as whatever you are going to be dating somebody else. So let's just say that that's, let's just be simple and say that's half, right? So all of a sudden you're down to 7%. And then you take half of that. I mean, that'd be really generous for me to say half of that in terms of, the people that are actually in your area. Then take half of that in terms of the people you encounter. Take half of that in terms of the people who you actually find attractive. And then half of that because they have to be attracted to you as well. And all of a sudden we're dealing with fractions of percentages eventually, as you can imagine. And depending on the population that you're dealing with, if you're in a big city, if you're in a small town, it can be a gigantic limiting factor just because of one characteristic. So choose your characteristics strategically, all right? And obviously, I mean, if you're really into your faith, then I really recommend making that something that, yeah, that's important in a partner. And yeah, that's going to restrict you. It's going to limit you. It is. But it's also something where the likelihood is higher that in terms of a fulfilling long-term relationship, that's something you're going to be able to find. So that is number one. Number two is going to be the what, right? What are you doing in terms of the opportunity? Some people, they're really comfortable going out to events at bars and clubs. They're really comfortable going on to meetup.com, etc. And, like going out to these different places. Other people, they want more kind of, when I say activities, my old church, would have ultimate frisbee right before church on Sundays. Some churches have board game nights. They'll go out to a bar, sure, but they're gonna have trivia night, right? So it's kind of centered around an activity. Sometimes it's, small groups, so it's Bible studies, getting together at people's houses. Different people are comfortable doing different things, right? And as you'll hear me say over and over on this channel, I'm a deep believer in not avoiding anxiety, but gently leaning into whatever these things are that make us anxious. If we do it slowly but surely, we will get more comfortable confronting the things that we're afraid of. And as we confront those fears, we are going to be able to not only push ourselves to new heights, but also to be able to develop a strong sense of not only self-esteem, but of self-efficacy. A belief that not only are we amazing, but that we are able to accomplish challenging things. Self-efficacy, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. So what is it? What opportunities are you interested in exploring? Make a list, really sit down, think about what are the things you'd like to explore, and then find opportunities that are out there. And never forget, right? If you go to an ultimate frisbee game and everybody's in a relationship, people who like ultimate frisbee probably know other people who like ultimate frisbee. And never forget that every person knows 10 people, at least, obviously, right? And they'll know a bunch of single people. So if you get together with people who play ultimate, they enjoy it, you enjoy it. You enjoy them as people, the likelihood is that they're going to have friends who you may enjoy as well, who may happen to be single. Who knows what could happen? That's the beautiful thing about relationships. You just never know where you're going to find them. So that is number two. Number three has to do with the question of when. When are you going to meet these people? People are busy. US, I'm in the United States, US in general is just such an overworked place that a lot of people either certainly don't have time during the day in terms of work days, but then at nighttime they're exhausted and they just want to go home and they want to have a nice long bath, or they want to read a book or watch their favorite television show or whatever it is and just forget about the day. They don't want to get dressed up or whatever and look their best, etc., and then go to an event. But some people or whatever, that is something they really enjoy. Other people, they'll say, well, I can do something right before church or right after church on a Sunday. Or, small group, once a week, I can handle that. Or on Saturday nights, let's say, I'll go out then to something that's going on, right? But figure out really when it is in the structure of your life that you're going to be able to go out, to be able to meet people. And when you figure that out, you can find opportunities that are going to align with your schedule. The worst that you can do is not have a schedule, not explore anything, and then all of a sudden you're really cutting down on your opportunities to meet people, okay? And you don't have to load your schedule or go out 7 days a week or any nonsense like that. But really analyze your schedule, because this is something, I mean, if you want to be in a relationship, you're gonna have to make a lot of time for the other person. Relative to being single, where you can do, what you want, when you want, with who you want, etc. You're gonna really have to take responsibility for the relationship and for the other person's desires, wants, needs, and so forth. So obviously, figuring out how you can fit things into your life, if you don't even have time to be able to go out once a week, how are you going to sustain a relationship? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's number 3. It has to do with when. Number 4 is basically where, right? So this geographically not only has to do with, like, let's say you're playing ultimate frisbee or whatever, the likelihood you're going to play it in somebody's basement is pretty low. So I don't mean where like that per se, but I mean more geographic region, right? If you're in a small town, there may not be that many opportunities. You may have to drive somewhere that's a closer metropolitan area, maybe a 45-minute commute, an hour commute. So I'm about, right now where I live, I would say that without traffic, I'm 35 minutes outside of DC. With traffic, I can be up to like an hour, 15 minutes away if there's traffic, which, as you can imagine, in the afternoons, like when work lets out, that's when you're likely to run into traffic. So that can be like 2.5 hours in the car for me to go to an event. At the same time, right, I can take into consideration the other aspects that we're talking about in this video to be able to figure out when is it going to be most convenient for me to get to those locations. And also, obviously, the locations also have to do with that what element, right? So, is it at a bar? Is it, some people are really anally against anything that has to do with alcohol. And I'll make a whole other video, I'll put a card up here above it, that has to do with alcohol and Christian dating and, my views on it in general. But it's something where figuring out locations where you feel like you're going to be able to present yourself with the most authenticity, right? To truly be yourself, those are the locations where you should really try to go to be able to meet people. Those are the opportunities that you should explore, so that's number 4. The 5th is why. So to be able to really get straight in your head why it is that now is the time in your life that you want to be exploring opportunities where you could meet people. The why shouldn't be, well, I'm 30 and I always thought I'd be married by 30, so that's why. That's honestly not a good reason. Why should not be, well, all my friends are dating or my friends have kids. This is just not a good why, right? There is always something deeper. If the deeper thing is that society expects you to do it, or you don't feel loved without a partner, those are things to deal with before you explore a romantic relationship. Because it's not that you're not loved, it's that you are so immensely, deeply loved by God, but you're, for whatever reason, this happens to everybody, right? It's happened to me in seasons of my life. You're not plugged in, right? It's almost like having a power outlet. You know that there's electricity there. You know that it's there, but you're not actively seeking to plug into it, right? So really figuring out, right, why it is that now is the time, right? That is going to also give you a sense of confidence when you go out and explore these opportunities to be able to meet someone. And last but not least, number 6 is the how, right? So for example, I have a lot of friends who are single parents at this stage, right? How are they supposed, they think about this and they tell me about, how am I supposed to go out? The structure is so hard. I gotta find a babysitter, bring them in. I gotta, make dinner for the kid beforehand. I gotta do all these things. Or how I live so far away. I gotta, like, here in DC, luckily we've got the metro. I can just, drive to a stop that's maybe 15 minutes for me, hop the metro, it'll take me right to where I want to be. I don't have to drive all the way down, right? The logistics are things that really give people a hard time, and in the end people shut down and they say, I'd rather do nothing than figure out these logistics. This is something that all of us need to really struggle and fight against, the sense of complacency that it is easier to do nothing than to actively do something. So that how element, how am I going to do this? By taking it step by step, simultaneously not rushing yourself, but also not just kind of giving in to saying, I don't feel like it today, I'm already in my pajamas, whatever, I know it's sad, I've had a really rough week, etc. We can make all the excuses we want, and I'm not here to shame you if you, like myself sometimes, right, do not want to take advantage of opportunities simply because life is tough, life is busy, what can I say, right? But once you figure out how you're going to get to locations, events with the right people, once you figured out why you want to do it, if you can figure out how to do it, then it's almost like building a script in your head that you can just go and follow. Think about when you go to the movies. When we go to the movies, right? What do? Well, okay, so open the door, go in, stand in line, go, take out the wallet, buy the ticket, tell the guy the movie you want to see, as well as the time you want to see it. Go inside, wait in the line, pay the money, get the popcorn and the drink. Wait in the line, ticket gets ripped, go to the place, maybe you got a reserved seat, find the seat, sit down, shut your mouth, watch the movie. That's it, right? So, apparently after that, you can imagine I must be like the worst person to go to the movies with, right? Because that's all I'm thinking is, what's next in the social script? Not really, but I do think it's kind of hilarious now that that comes out of my mouth. But when it comes to something like this, right? If you can develop that kind of a script, you don't really have to think. Like when I go to the movies, I don't actively think about that, I just do it. Same thing when it comes to this. Think about it like laying out your clothes the night before, right, when you go to sleep. You wake up, you do the Jetsons, right? I don't know if you guys ever watched the cartoon The Jetsons, right? Where they just kind of like slide into the clothes. Same thing, just one at a time, you know, conveyor belt, put the stuff on. Same idea here. Just once you figure out exactly how you're gonna get this done, life's gonna be a lot easier, right? So these are the sorts of things that I want you guys thinking about, the 6 different areas that when it comes to determining and taking advantage of opportunities for meeting other people, this is a way that you can structure it. The who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Please do share this video with your friends, with your congregation. Obviously, like the video, subscribe to our channel so you can find out when we post new original content. Hit that bell. And please do comment below. It really helps us out a lot, especially if you enjoyed the video or if you have other questions that I can help answer for you in future videos about dating, about attraction, about marriage, and more than anything, about being single. I love being single. It's such a blessing to me to be single. As somebody who's almost gotten married in the past, I know the joys of relationships. They're wonderful. And I know the joys more deeply now than ever of being single. And I really deeply desire for you to also know those joys. So if you have any questions, please do ask me. I'm an open book, and I'm really happy to talk to you about it. All right, everybody. Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed that episode and you'd like to see more original content, then please do click on one of the links right here. I hope to see you in the next one.